Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what happened in the market today. A pretty wild day, pretty massive euphoria type of day. And I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on what I personally believe, what it means, how we got here, and what I think is next. So all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, then please do not forget to hit that like button as it does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. You get access to that. It's in the description of the video, or you can press that big join button beside the subscribe button. You can access all my intraday thoughts, post updates every single day. The market is open. There's a lot of things that I post, especially lately now that I'm doing NVIDIA as well, every single day. So definitely check that out. Just $2.99 for the base tier, which is essentially including Tesla and just general market stuff. There's also a $4.99 tier, which includes NVIDIA as well, if you're interested in NVIDIA updates on top of everything else. But all that being said and done, jumping into a Tesla closing the day up a beautiful 6.3%, closing at pretty much $214 per share, which is pretty phenomenal compared to the market. However, it is, you can argue actually, a slight outperformance compared to the market. I wouldn't say it's a massive outperformance, but a slight outperformance you can make an argument for. Now, what does this mean? How do we get here and what is going on? So yesterday we talked about, very quickly to reiterate, remember I talked about this consolidation. I took out the bottom one, but you remember the bottom one looked something like this, right? Remember we had this, right? I talked about this consolidation. We broke out, came back, retested it, and moved up even higher. Pretty much an absolute, like it really doesn't get more textbook than that. Beautiful breakout, beautiful retest, almost to perfection on the 1 hour chart as well, right? You can see pretty much a almost near perfect breakout, and then we rallied up substantially higher, right? Pretty much to my target I've been talking about for a while, 215. I've been mentioning this 215 level for quite some time, and I do expect some resistance to be found there, and so far we're definitely finding some resistance. A lot of wicks on both sides, but definitely a lot of wicks on the top side. We also printed 2 inverted hammer candles after getting rejected from pretty much the 215 range as well. So I'll talk about what I think can happen next and where I think we can go next, obviously very soon, but this is just a general textbook breakout, retest, and move up even higher. Now the question is, well, is this a dead cat bounce, right? Is this just a bull trap, or is this an actual legitimate move? And we can actually see legitimate, levels higher than this over time. Of course, doesn't mean it has to be tomorrow. It can take some time. In fact, I actually wouldn't be surprised if we get some profit taking coming up, honestly, even as early as tomorrow, especially going to a long weekend, or not a long weekend, but just a weekend, especially after the market has been pretty... Man, any bears down here, I have to say, whew, this is just not the... Any bears that were down here are, well, let's just say they're not very happy, to be completely honest with you. But the market, very quickly, I want to talk about QQQ here, which is, tech, which, Tesla tech, right, whatever, is entering a pretty important level. We ended up having an important level here. We ended up breaking and gapping right above it and rallied even higher. The market is just leaving gaps upon gaps at this point. Very euphoric rally on the market since these crashes. We pretty much got it all back almost instantly. But the market and QQQ is now entering some pretty crucial levels, right? We're entering a massive area of supply once again. Huge area that can definitely provide some pretty substantial selling pressure. We're above the market bias, so the market is still bullish in my opinion. But with that being said, we are starting to enter some overbought territories on the market here as well. Now, moving back to Tesla very quickly, let's see what I think about Tesla. Let's go to the 1 hour chart. We'll start off here, right? So, remember yesterday I talked about how the stochastic over here is, it crossed bearish, and then we pretty much had a massive, 3-4% crash. And then, the stochastic started entering oversold territories. We mentioned this yesterday in yesterday's video. All it takes is a cross. We got that in the morning, and a massive follow through. But now we're once again where we were yesterday, right before we end up having that fall about 3 to 4%. Stochastic 1 hour. Again, I love the 1 hour time frame. It's probably one of my favorites, honestly. I mean, daily and weekly are still overall more powerful, but I love the 1 hour for kind of, within the week idea, or maybe within the next couple of days of, getting an idea of what can happen next. 1 hour stochastic, once again, right back in that overbought territory, starting to curl. Hasn't crossed bearish just yet, but if we do lose some levels, which I'll talk about very soon, I do believe this will probably at some point, it will at some point, I mean, maybe not tomorrow, but at some point it will cross bearish, and we will get our little, mini correction, if you will. Now, there's a few things that are really important to understand here. Now, the thing I want to talk about very quickly is going to be this, right? Is this a dead cat bounce? Is this a dead cat bounce? Or is this an actual legitimate rally? And, Tesla will just ultimately, even after a potential small correction, will ultimately just head higher. And, no worries, no foul, everything is good, everyone's happy. That is the $1 million question, isn't it? Now, that's what I want to talk about. So obviously, on the 1 hour chart, I printed this a descending channel, right? We were in this descending channel. I called out this descending channel pretty much even back when we were still around the 260s, right? Why? Because I talked about how this could just be essentially an absolutely enormous, massive, where's the drawing thing here? Massive cup and handle, right? Boom, 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 boom. And now we are setting up the handle, and we actually just broke out of the handle. Usually, like I always say, when breakouts, like we saw yesterday, when you get a breakout, very common. At some point, usually sooner than later, ideally, to come down, get a quick retest. In my opinion, the sooner it happens, the better. So if Tesla were to come down even as early as tomorrow for that nice little quick retest on this breakout, which I'll talk about what level that is very soon, that'll be pretty damn bullish. And as long as it holds, in my opinion, as far as I can see, this is just a nice looking bullish breakout of this bullish rather, cup and handle pattern. No complaints here, really, no complaints here. Now, obviously, this pattern truly gets triggered if you break the neckline, which is pretty much that 265 region. So just because we broke out of this doesn't mean we have to rock it up and break it tomorrow or next week. It can definitely still take some time. But the point is the fact that breaking out of this handle now sets our targets on that next general, like massive area of resistance, which in this case will be that 265, right? This is the bullish perspective. I want to make this very clear. Right now, I'm talking about the bullish perspective, right? And again, if we do play out this 1 hour stochastic, if it does curl and cross bearish, if we do get a correction, I, as of right now, expect the correction for Tesla to come down as early as tomorrow, maybe Monday, but not too long, at least if it happens quickly, all the way back down to about the mid-ish 200s, right? 205, 206, maybe even 208, somewhere around that level. I try not to give exact levels. Like some people I know they'd be like, oh yeah, it'll stop at 215.43 and then it'll come down to 207.69. And it's just like, it's weird to me. I can't think like that, right? I'd like to have a range, right? It could be 205, it could be 206, it could be 208, it could be 205.39. I don't know. But I do believe that that general range, that general potential area of support and now demand should be an area of support, right? Because again, all it's going to do is have Tesla kind of loop down like this, right? Off this 215 resistance level, come back, retest this level, pretty much right around here, retest this breakout, retest this potential resistance point that we had here, right? And I do believe that as long as this holds, we should head higher. That's my current belief from a bullish perspective. I will go over some bearish perspectives, and there definitely are some bearish perspectives still. But that's the current bullish perspective. And I personally, as of right now, also could be wrong, do expect profit taking to come in, maybe as early as tomorrow. Why? Because again, the market has been on an absolutely euphoric rally. And honestly, going into a weekend, I'd be pretty surprised if I don't see some profit taking. So we'll see if how that plays out. But if that were to happen, I do think Tesla will just hold and then most likely make it way back up. And I think ultimately, if we continue holding, the next main level, like, obviously we'll have some, smaller time frames of resistance supports, for instance, like 225 will definitely be one of those. But the next major region that I think will be a major resistance will be about 235, right? That'll be a next major one, followed by about 245 to 250, followed by 265. Those are about the three main levels of resistance that Tesla will have to knock out one by one. Probably the biggest one by far will be all the way up here at around 265-ish. Because if we break above that and hold, Tesla should get extremely bullish once or if that happens, right? Now, those are the bullish scenarios. That's what I see from a bullish perspective. Now, what are the bearish perspectives, right? What's the bearish scenario here? Well, first and foremost, it's right at resistance, right? I talked about this major resistance level for quite some time. 215 acted as a massive area of support. Now, after that massive breakthrough, it's only common for us to not only come back and retest it like we did today, but you can see here, in theory, should be a pretty damn good resistance, at least for now. So we'll see how Tesla, plays around that. If we break the high of today, tomorrow, or Monday, I do believe Tesla will head up to about 220 to 225. If we break even as low as about 213.5 to 213, I do think Tesla will begin that correction down. So like I said, mid-ish 200, let's say, like 205, 206, 207, 208, something like that, right? But that's the bearish perspective, right? So we have this resistance. That's number one. Going over to the daily chart really quickly. There's another reason why I have 215, right? Remember we talked about this for quite some time, the band's regression, one of my favorite. Remember how I talked about is going to meet us in the middle around 215? Back when we were still trading all the way down here. You can go back to those videos a few days ago and I pretty much mentioned this exact same thing. Back when this was still around 220, 219, right? I talked about how I think it will come back up, revert to the mean, which is exactly what we did, reset the stock from being extremely oversold, which it was on the daily chart especially. Usually when it gets oversold or overbought on the daily chart, everyone gets really scared. Like I still remember back when we were still all the way up here and we were extremely overbought. Everyone was telling me we're going to 300. Everyone was saying 300 is next. And I was one of the few people who I was like, I don't know about that. We're pretty overbought, guys. This is pretty euphoric. I'm just be careful. Everyone's like, nah, man, you're so stupid, bro. 300. Okay, well, look what happened. And now the same thing happened here. We were just extremely overbought it or oversold, and it was kind of scary. There was definitely some fear in the markets. Absolutely. It was kind of a scary drop, but we were oversold, really oversold. We were as oversold here as we were almost overbought here. And people now were starting to panic. Like, that's just not how this works, right? It's literally the opposite. But the point I'm trying to make here is whenever you get into these extreme levels, more often than not, what happens is at some point or another, especially on the daily chart, it does take maybe a couple of weeks or so, maybe a week or two, you revert back to the mean. In other words, you come back to this white line and we kind of meet somewhere in the middle because it slowly does come back down to us. And that's exactly what happened. We came right into it, but now it's acting as a resistance, right? This is an area to break. This 215 range is an area to break, close, and hold. So until that happens, in my opinion, Tesla is actually still not out of the woods. This is still technically a bearish trend. Like, it's not out of the woods just yet, even though we broke out of this downward channel. All that means is that maybe we'll stop going down, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily have to start going back up yet until we start breaking these levels, until we start going above the market bias, right? Until these things start to happen, Tesla is still in a bearish trend, in my opinion, despite breaking out of this downward channel. This breakout, all that means is the fact that now we have an actual shot at actually reversing this trend. So let's see if we can do that. But until it happens, be careful. But with that being said, stochastic, still bullish crossover, still looks pretty damn solid in all honesty. So if we do get a drawdown tomorrow to 205, 207, 208, whatever, this will just probably be a retest on the stochastic, honestly. BX Trender, still looking pretty solid. We talked about this, the past several days. Still looks good on the daily chart. No concern there. So Tesla is still setting up. It's setting up like it wants to at some point break those trends. And it does want to break above those levels I just mentioned. It's just a matter of when, or honestly, even still if, right? These could still be false signals, of course. You have to always be careful. Nothing is guaranteed in the market. MACD is still bearish, but it's curling back up. Obviously, once this crosses bullish, well, that's another positive sign for the bulls, right? But that's the main thing for bears, right, that they're looking at. They're looking at this massive area of resistance right now that I just mentioned. Another way to look at it for bears, you can also go like this, right? From that recent swing high to the recent swing low. We're at the exact 382 Fibonacci retracement level all the way over here, from this massive swing high to the massive swing low. Or you can even take it from the recent swing high, right? You can also go all the way from here. Here, let me redo this from the start. You can go from this recent swing high at around 235 to this recent swing low. And we're also at the 618 Fibonacci retracement level, which is also another pretty important level for bears to really come in with an attack here. If at any point they were going to, this is another moment for them to do that, right? So, again, if there's a level to reject, I'd expect it to be around here. And until Tesla can really, at the very least, start closing back above 215 and really starting to, turn this level back into a support, I'd be cautious for a dead cat. This still has the properties of a dead cat bounce, in my opinion. And this would be probably the most optimal level for bears, in my opinion, to really start showing signs of a rejection. Anything higher still technically has signs of dead cat. I want to make this very clear, right? So if we take it from the overall swing high to the overall swing low, the 0.38 or the 0.618 goes all the way up to about the mid 230s. So even if we go up to the mid 230s, there's still an argument to be made for the bears that this is a dead cat bounce. But it gets weaker, in my opinion. This is where the bears can really still come in, like swinging pretty aggressively. So we'll see how this plays out. But that's my bearish perspective. So, you have to weigh those two against each other and see which one makes more sense. But that's just kind of how I'm looking at it right now. The final thing we'll look at is going to be the Ichimoku cloud. We don't look at this too often, but some traders that I respect do actually like it quite a bit. And the idea is pretty simple. You're below the cloud, it's red, it's bearish. You're above the cloud, it's green, it's bullish, right? But in this case, we were above the cloud for quite some time, came into the cloud, went sideways, and then now we're coming back into it seemingly now as a resistance, right? Kind of what happened over here, just the flip effect. We were below the cloud, came back down, kind of went sideways, but then the cloud kind of went down below us as we went above it, as we were just simply consolidating to the sideways. And then we ended up crossing it by literally going sideways. And then we ended up holding it as support, and then we rallied substantially. So will this be the inverse of what happened here? That's still a possibility. And we could still go much, much lower in the sense of being a false flag. So you want to always take these things into consideration, but we'll see how it plays out. I'll always keep you updated, obviously, with my personal thoughts. Again, I could be very wrong. Take it into account, right? I'm not some fortune teller. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just like everyone else, doing my best to pretty much guess what happens next based on indicators and based on just probability, really. But all that being said and done, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.